Hi everyone, let's talk about Terraforming Mars. And this is a really solid, well-designed engine builder. I've played it two players and solo, and it has got, as most engine builders do, most good ones anyway, it captures that sense of escalation. You're not doing very much at the start at all. You're making tiny little steps. By the end, like in this playthrough where I thought that I was nowhere near being able to achieve the conditions to call it a victory. By the end, you are taking so many actions and being able to do so many things. You're earning so much money. You're generating all the things that you've been working towards all game. It all comes together really, really nicely. There is a massive deck of cards, and in a solo or a two-player game, you're not going to get through much of that at all. Especially if you mix in the corporate cards. There's a corporate variant where you mix in all of these cards, and they are definitely. Some of them are just more complex cards, but a lot of them are more attacky cards of stealing things from people. There are some cards that are literally just no benefit to you whatsoever, just hurts other people. And there are other cards that are in the normal game as well. So let's get onto that subject of the interaction in the game. I had been wary of it, and because this review's a bit it's a bit late coming, isn't it? Or this playthrough, it's nearly a year since Terraforming Mars came out, or was it Gen Con that came out? I think it's about a year it came out. Finally got hold of it, by the way. But yeah, I'd been wary of it. I'd heard things about the amount of just stealing and destroying things in it, and I don't like that in games at all. But I kind of thought, some people had suggested just don't play with those cards, and then the designer had been on Board Game Geek and said it would imbalance the game. So I'd kind of just left it and, not been able to get a copy for a long time. Finally got it, and we did encounter it. In fact, I haven't got the corporation in front of me, but there's a corporation that focuses on plant production very early on, and I happened to be that in our first game of it. And I can't remember what Rachel was doing on her corporation, but I just went for that. I didn't know what I was doing in the game, but had that incentive from the start. Oh, you're really good at doing plants, so I just thought, okay then, I will just go for that. If I get cards that help me with plants, they will be the ones that I'll try and go towards. And a lot of the cards in this game either hurt production of things, but they destroy plants as well. They will destroy people's areas on the map. And it turns out, we didn't realise this until afterwards. I'd heard about the imbalance and the designers saying don't take the attack cards out because it imbalances the game. We didn't take the cards out, but we didn't use them because we just don't do that. And I ended up winning by a fair margin, and because the planet was just filled with greenery tiles that are worth a point each, and I've managed to get a couple of cities surrounded by those greenery tiles, which were also worth tons of points, as well as anything else I was doing in the game. It led to a huge discrepancy, on the board, because it turns out one of the things that you're supposed to be doing, if somebody is getting really ahead in greenery and things, those cards are there to, rein them back in. And, as soon as you see somebody doing that, and if you get those cards, that is your job to stop them being able to run away with a victory, because they will generate so many points and other things by doing this. They've already made the oxygen and everything and helped the terraforming. Some of those cards, it turns out, are necessary to balance the game out. And so that is a reason why, we would never play it multiplayer again, basically, just because we would never use those cards, and that imbalances the game if you're going to go for that. And then, now we know that that's the thing, it would be, are you going to just avoid those greenery things? It's not worth getting into, but yeah, we wouldn't play it multiplayer again because of that. The game length was another issue as well, because the game ends, no matter what you're playing really, the game ends when you have terraformed Mars, when you've got all of these markers up to the top, and got all the ocean tiles out and everything, which is, it goes up to 5 players this game. And so if you've got 5 people all trying to do their own thing and trying to contribute so that they get their terraforming rating up, so they'll get more money and more points at the end, all of this is going to go up really, really quickly. When there's only 2 of you doing it, it's going to take, more than twice as long, because you need to reach those things. There is a variant, I don't think it's in the rulebook, I think it was on Board Game Geek. There is a variant from one of the designers that's at the end of every round, every generation, whoever is the start player, I think, gets to decide one of the things to go up. And they don't get an increase in terraforming rating from that, but they do accelerate the game. And it was better from that. It wasn't crazy long when we played, but it's still, by the end, despite the fact that you are doing all of these cool things now, it's gone on for it's outstayed its welcome for us anyway. But back to happier things, yeah, I do. As I said, I really like the engine building. The variety in the game is really good. I really like the kind of little explanations in the rulebook as well that are, as the temperature goes up, the greenhouse effect starts to come in, and that's why you get these heat bonuses. And I can't remember the reason now, but once the oxygen goes up, it increases the temperature because it would. I think the. Oh yeah, once the temperature goes up to a certain amount, you get a free ocean tile because that means that a certain amount of ice melts, and would make this amount of water appear on the planet. I really like all of those little things as well. The awards and milestones are a nice thing in the multiplayer game as well because there is a race for those, but they also cost you money, especially the awards. It costs you more if you're not the first person to do it. The longer you wait to go for one of these awards and their end game scoring opportunities, really, you are paying to have a certain aspect of the game, whether it's how many cities you've got out or how much science you've got. You are kind of paying to make sure, okay, we're going to consider maybe 3 things at the end of the game. I want to pay now to make sure it's going to be one of those. And the milestones are things you race towards as well. Once you've got your terraforming rating to a certain amount, or once you've got a certain number of buildings out, or something like that. They are nice little things. They're not in the solo game because it would be silly, wouldn't it? But the solo game is nice though because you have to do all of this that would normally be done by several players. All of the terraforming, you have to do it by yourself. So it is a lot more puzzly because there is the normal game goes on as long as it takes to terraform all of this stuff. The solo game only lasts 14 rounds, which seems like a lot to begin with, but some of those rounds are just okay. I'll play this card and then that's all of my money. So next round, the early rounds can go really quickly until you've started to build that engine up, which is really nice. But yeah, you have to be concerned with the puzzle at first or the threat of, maybe I'm not going to get this done in time, and don't be thinking about loads of points cards until you're kind of sure that you're on your way. And, the more experience you get with the game, you start to realise that, oh, I can do this. Like when I was panicking towards the end of the game, if I were more experienced with it, maybe I'd be thinking, no, this is fine. So what else should I mention? The player boards, there's other things that people have mentioned as well. The player boards are, it's an interesting way of tracking it, of, kind of saving, having to make a load of things. I don't really like that everything is represented by these cubes. As I said, it saves having to make tokens for each individual thing, but I don't really like, just having these generic things on there and you have to remember that, okay, this represents this now because it's in this area. Don't particularly like that. I would prefer, just tokens to do the thing. As I said, keep the cost down, realise why it's not done that way. And as a lot of people have mentioned as well, there is such a massive risk of, if the table gets knocked or anything, we've got, Marty isn't just a glass cat. There's a real cat that roams around, and he is, he's an especially good troublemaker. And, if he just happened to get on the table and just nudge any of these things, there's no way to kind of retrospectively track what we did with this, because how many times did you do an action to increase this thing? It's not just the cards that you play. How many times did just effects go off? Did somebody else play something that affects you? You can't really go back and work out what your production should be on anything. So if things get knocked, it could really wreck the game. And there are tons of little things now. If you do get the game and really like it, then there are tons of little plastic things that you can buy that the cubes would slot in rather than just float on the card. And in general, I don't really like the. No, I don't really mind using photos for art on things, as a lot of people seem to not like that, when Legendary does it or something. I don't mind using photos as art, but I think it's weird when it's a mixture. It's a real mishmash of, some of it is actual photos of actual people, and then some of it is drawn art. It's all kind of, and this might be a cost thing as well, because if you want it to all be whoops, I got excited and kicked the camera. So where was I? If you want it to all be congruous, you're like art that all goes together and is all one style, and you want to use fewer artists, it's going to cost a lot of money, and it's going to take a long time for those artists to do that thing. So, that tends to be why these decisions are made. I don't want to speak for Stronghold Games of why they did it, but I don't really like the kind of weird, mishmash that all of the art represents in the end. And I don't particularly like the graphic design of it as well. Some things are fine, but this is true of some other Stronghold games as well. Of like I absolutely adore Kanban, but I would change a lot of graphic design about it. And I realise I don't like when people just complain about things and don't offer any solutions or anything. But I and maybe I have no idea about graphic design, so maybe I shouldn't speak about it. But the kind of the fonts that are used kind of across the board and in the rulebook of things, and are really, it just seems kind of random and a mishmash again of things that don't really go together. And again, I have no idea what would make it look nice and what things people should use, but it just doesn't really appeal to me very much. But those are very minor things. As I said, there are little problems that I have with Kanban, but I love that game. So it wouldn't really affect my opinion of the game in general. It's more to do with the length of the game is too long. I didn't mention there's luck of the draw in the game. Obviously, it's a game with a huge deck of cards. There's going to be swingy luck of the draw. Of you might desperately need cards of a certain type, and then you never ever manage to get those things. It is tempered a bit with a draft variant. But that isn't really an option for us because I quite like draft variants. Rachel hates draft variants because she can never remember. Once she's kind of picked a thing from a hand and then she gets past a whole new hand, she can't remember anything that was in that original hand and has to constantly keep referring to the things she's already taken to remember what's going on with the things, especially if they've got a load of effects. And if every card's completely different and has a ton of effects like in this, she just doesn't want to deal with the drafting variants. So that can alleviate the luck of the draw by having that variant in there. But yeah, in general for us, it's too long, and the conflict is too interwoven into the game to not play with it. It's an essential part of the game, and so it makes it not for one for us. But I can definitely appreciate the design and the theme, and just what a good. Oh, bringing up the cloth. What a good engine building game it is. But I think that's enough about Terraforming Mars. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you for the next game. Bye.